Hi, my name is Cindy Rang from the Fabric Patch, and I want to talk to you about quilting stitches. So this is just sort of a basic sampler of all kinds of different free motion designs. None of these were done with a pantograph or with a ruler or with a computerized program. All of them are free motion, and we'll get into that more in future videos. But just to run a little bit of practice by you, I just want to show you 5 different movements, because every one of your free motion quilting designs that you're going to do can be done in 5 different movements. So as we pan across a bunch of them, you can see, and then we'll come back again, but you can see that there are circles, loops, lines, spikes, and plumes. So I'm going to show you what I mean. On paper. The reason I'm going to show you on paper is because it all translates the same. When you're holding your long arm, whether you quilt with one hand or 2 hands, it's basically going to be that same movement. If you are somebody who's doing a tabletop quilting, it's going to be a little bit harder, but again, if you can master these 5 movements, you can do everything that's free motion design. So we'll start with loops. And loops and curves I kind of think of as the same thing. So loops can be something like that is what a lot of people think of, but by curves, you know, a stipple is a curve. So anything that, you know, however you're curving it. Circles are, of course, circles you can do. And even if you're doing pebbling. Lines are pretty obvious, you know, whether you're doing a straight line or if you're connecting your lines, if you're doing wavy lines, if you're mixing things together. And then spikes. Spikes are a lot of things. Spikes are when you're going to come up to a stop and then you come back. So a leaf is a spike, right? Because you're coming up to the top here. And what will happen with a leaf is that, or any spike, is that if you come up to the top and if you kind of don't slow down, what will happen is you could come around and you get one of these little things at the end. So you want to actually make sure that you stop before you keep going. And so same thing even if what you're doing is the inside of a leaf. You know, flames, tiger stripes, you know, whatever. Doing a sun are all spikes. So spikes are, one thing about spikes that I like to mention is that when you come up, you're actually taking a step. So if you come back to where you were, pretty soon things are going to get a little bit weird, right? But if you come up and take a step, come up and take a step, and by step I mean you're moving. And that's even true if you're going around. You're still moving, so you don't come back to the same place. And then the last one is, of course, plumes. And plumes, that's what we think of when we are doing a feather. We'll talk at length in future videos about feathers, but the thing with a feather is that a plume just does that. So whether you're doing, you know, all joined together, doing different sizes, which way you're turning them, you know, doing a double plume, doing spikes in your plume, you know, whatever it is that you're doing, it doesn't matter. But plumes, it's like a paisley. So again, all of your movements, and we'll look again here in a second, curves, circles, lines, spikes, and plumes. These are your 5 movements. So if we look here, let's look at some of this quilting here. Curves, lines, curves, lines, which are actually echo, lines, curves, there's a spike, lines, curves, there's a spike, 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 curves, spike, plumes, a line with circles, circles, let's come down here, plumes, straight thread, spikes here, so it's, you know, a curve, spike, lines, curves, plumes, more plumes, curves and spikes, leaves, spike, curve, circles, 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 lines, curves, lines, spikes inside of spikes, more spikes, more spikes, more spikes, coming up over this way. This one I kind of did a whole line. So here's my line, and then I did curves, circles, more curves and circles, spikes. Oh, there's a little loop, overshot, see that? That's wrong. There's another one. Spikes, 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 lines, curves, circles and spikes, leaves, plumes, more circles, and then as we come up here, same thing, curves, lines. It just kind of keeps, even flowers, you know, circles, plumes. There's a whole bunch of spikes. And then your lines, it's still the same thing, it's just whether your line is straight or wavy, which will give you a different effect. So anyway, so practice, if you practice drawing, because the other thing that you want to practice, because when we first start doing our stitching, our next video together, we're going to put a quilt on the machine, and I'm going to show you how to get from one area to the other as we do our design planning. But one thing that's kind of nice if you're practicing, and probably if you don't want to burn down a forest with all of your paper, you can maybe do a write-on wipe-off board. It might be a little bit easier, but as you're practicing, also be planning where you're going to go next. So if you know what you're going to do is you want to get into the center, kind of be thinking about how you're going to get there, so that then as you do your next one, how are you going to fill this up to do whatever you're doing, so you can plan how you're going to get to your next spot and how you're going to get to your next spot. So whatever it is that you're doing, as you're drawing, if all you're doing is drawing circles, you know, oops, or something that looks like a circle, you know, you have to also be thinking about where you're going. All right, practice your drawing. On our next video together, we're going to actually be on the machine, doing this stuff on the machine. But practice your drawing, all 5 movements, and how to get from one area to the other, filling your space. And I'll see you next time.
Thank you for watching our video. We invite you to leave a comment, hit the like button, or better yet, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. You can also visit our Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, or Pinterest pages, or find all of those things and our online store at fabricpatch.net.